All right, so create a school API is a lot like what we learned. It's pretty much what we learned yesterday. It's using Django to create an API. So we're going to be creating a Django project that returns JSON. Part of the assignment was to deploy it to Heroku. I've kind of reached my limit of free Heroku deployment, so I'm not going to do that today. But for the rest of it, I am definitely going to do it. So release 0 is set up a new Django project. So I've already cloned this repo. So I'm just going to, first off, make my virtual environment. Eventually. I'm going to open this up in a VS Code. Then I will source venv bin activate. Then I'm going to pip install Django. It's taking its sweet time about it. All right, and I'm going to pip install scopg2 because this is going to be a Postgres database, and therefore we need to use scopg2. And now I'm going to start my Django project. So Django admin start project, school API. And then I'm going to create an app, manage.py, start app, call it students and courses. Oh. There we go. All right, so now first off, what do we need to do in order to hook this project up to a Postgres database?
Create a DB and then database name.
Yep, so first we need to create a database. Let's call it school API. Then I go to settings. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I add students and courses to my installed apps while I'm here. And then in the databases, I'm going to make sure I change the engine to PostgreSQL. And then the name of our database is School API. All right. So now I'm going to create my models. So release 1 is students. So we can start off by creating Crud functionality for students. It says right here, we need to do create, read, update, and delete students using our API. Doesn't really say what our students actually need to have, so we have a little bit of liberty there. So you can call this class student. And here it's from models.model. And we can say our students have a first name, equals models.charfield 100, and a last name, charfield 100. We can give them an age, models.integer field. I think I think we can just leave it at this for now. All right, so now I need to make I'm going to make a def string method as well. I'm just going to return first name and last name. Self.first name and self.last name, that is. All right. So now I have my model made, what's next? How do I make sure my model is connected to my database?
You want to make migrations?
Yep, let's make some migrations. So manage.py, make migrations. Uh-oh. It says char fields must maintain a max length equals. Try that again. All right, we have successfully created our migration. Now I'm going to migrate it. All right, a whole bunch of OKs across the board. That's a good sign. So next thing I want to do is I want to set up my URLs for my CRUD actions. Sorry, I'm thinking about to sneeze. Pardon me. So I'm going to import include here in my projects urls.py. Make sure I have a path up to students. I'm going to include students and courses.urls. Next, I'm going to make that URLs file here in my app from Django.urls. I'm going to import path from import views. Have URL patterns. All right, so I need to, in this case, I'm going to have to, I need all my CRUD actions, right? So I'm going to need a list. So that can be my home thing right there. Send that to views.studentList. Name equals student list. We can have a new one. So new. Views.new student. Name equals new student. All right, what do I have to do if I want to view an individual student? What does my URL look like here?
You would need the, I don't know what the character is called, like the little triangle, greater than, or yeah, and then int, semicolon or colon, and then student underscore ID, and then close it all up.
So that'll allow us to get it from params, so not wine, student detail. And to edit it, it would be almost the same thing, except we'd have the edit thing after int student ID /edit. Views.edit student. Name equals edit student. And finally, we want to delete a student. We'd say int student ID /delete. Views.delete student. name equals delete student. All right. Any questions on all of this so far? This is all things we've covered before, but okay. So now we have all these views here, which means we need to actually add them to our
Hey, Noah.
views.py.
Noah,
Yes?
I actually had a question that came up. So I've seen slug like in some of the like in the URLs, like instead of int student, you know, like I've seen slug. What's a slug exactly? Can you go over that?
Good question. I actually am not familiar with slug. Tom, are you familiar with slug? Well, if I do Django URL slug, let's see what it tells us. So in the Django things, we have something called URL dispatcher. So if I do slug, all right, so they have the URL conf here. So articles, int year, int month, slug, slug. Does it tell us what a slug is? A slug matches any slug string consisting of ASCII letters or numbers plus the hyphen and underscore characters. For example, building your first Django site. So it seems like a slug is a particular type of string that you can include. I'm not entirely sure what the difference is between a slug and an str in this case. So that's what I've got so far. So I think a slug can only consist of letters, numbers, and dashes and underscores, while an str may be able to include more. That's what I'm understanding from the docs, but there's probably more to it that I'm not understanding. Does that help?
Yes, thanks.
All right. So I'm going to make my views now. So first off, I'm going to have to import a few things. So I'm going to, from .models, I'm going to import student. I'm going to get rid of import render and replace it from Django.http. We're going to import JSON response. We're going to say from Django.views.decorators.csrf. We're going to import CSRF exempt. And we're going to import some forms and serializers, which we haven't made yet. From .forms, we're going to import student form. From .serializers, we're going to import student serializer. And then finally, we're going to import JSON. So again, we haven't made these, so let's make our student serializer before we do anything else. So I'm going to make serializers.py here. And remember, what is the purpose of a serializer again?
Serializer can help us turn a query set into JSON.
Exactly.
JSON object.
Yeah. So I'm going to, from built-ins, I'm going to import object. I'm going to make a class called student serializer, which inherits from object. I'm going to give it a def init, self, and body, which again, body can be called anything you want, but that just says whatever we're going to be feeding into it. So that could be one student or a group of students in this case. Then we're going to make an app property called all students. We're going to set output equal to a dictionary with a key called students, which points to an empty array. Then we're going to iterate through our list of students. So for student in self.body, we're going to say student details equals in dictionary with first name as student.firstname. Last name is student.lastname. And age is student.age. And once we've created that dictionary, we're going to output students.append student details. And then after the loop is done, we will return our output. Any questions about this serializer method?
Geo here.
Mhm.
So for the add property, what is the function of that again?
So that allows us to call on all students as a property of the class rather than a method of the class. So essentially it'll allow us to run student serializer dot all students like this without the parentheses at the end.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Oops. So now that we have that, I'm going to make student list, which takes a request as an argument. We'll say students equals student.objects.all. And we'll say serialized students equals a student serializer that takes students as an argument, dot all students. And then at the end, we return a JSON response where the data is equal to serialized students and the status is equal to 200. So the status code is there telling us that this was a successful request. And the data is just the entire list of students in JSON form. All right, let's try another one. Let's, for example, we do our new student thing. So we're gonna have to make the CSRF exempt from our decorator. I'm gonna say new student takes a request. We're gonna say if the request.method equals post. Then we'll say data equals JSON.load request. So that'll turn it into from a JSON string into an object. And then we need to use our form, which means we need to make our form. So I'm going to make a new file again called forms.py. I'm going to say from Django, I'm going to import forms. From .models, I'm going to import student. I'm going to make something called class student form. And here it's from forms.modelForm. We have a subclass called meta, where the model equals student. And the fields equal first name, last name, and age. Now that I have a student form, I can actually use it to make my post requests. So I can say form equals student form using the data. If the form is valid, we will say that our new student is going to equal form.save, commit equals true. Serialized student equals So now we need to make another method for our student serializer for if there's just one student. We'll call it student detail. So back to my serializer. Going to make another method, or property, I should say, called student detail. And it's essentially the same thing as all students, except for instead of iterating over a list of students, it does the same thing for just one. So I can kind of just say, kind of copy this over here. I'll just start from scratch. Student detail equals first name is going to be, in this case, since the body is going to be just one student, we're going to say self.body.firstname. Last name is self.body.lastname. And age is self.body.age. And then we can just even, we don't even need to do that in one line. We can just do that right here. Return student detail. We can just do that. So that'll create serialized student like that. And then we can return our JSON response where data equals serialized student and status equals 200. What questions do you have about forms and serializers and making new records? Okay. In that case, I'm going to add edit. And edit is almost the same as new, so I am just going to copy this. Change this one to edit student. Differences before we get this edit the student, we're going to say wine equals student. Student equals student.objects.get, where the ID equals the student ID. And takes a student ID as part of the request. Then we keep this the same and this the same. Differences with our student form, we say our instance equals student. If the form is valid, we save it, serialize the student, return the JSON response. So the only difference is we make sure we figure out what student we're using and make sure we pass that to the form before we save it. So I forgot to do the student details, so I'll do that next. So student detail takes a request and a student ID. Let's say student equals student.objects.get, where ID equals student ID. Serialized student equals student serializer, taking the student as an argument, dot student detail. And then we return the JSON response. Data equals serialized student. Status equals 200. And then finally, if we want to delete a student, this is going to be CSRF exempt. Delete student, request, and student ID. If request.method is post, student equals student.objects.get, where the ID equals student ID. Then we're just going to student.delete. And then we will return a JSON response where the data equals a dictionary with the status of successfully deleted. and then also a status code of 200. So those are our CRUD views. What questions do you have before we test it out?
I got a question, Noah.
Mhm.
I was testing out the Django REST framework, and is there a big advantage to using one over the other? I know the framework kind of hides a lot of stuff, but is there an advantage at all to doing it all yourself versus using the framework?
So Django REST framework is a very useful tool. This is another one of those instances where we wanted to show you how to do it yourself before you used a tool to do it for you. So Django REST framework does include things like serializers, very similar to our, the way we have forms here. So we made a custom serializer here, but Django REST framework has access to those as well. So if you, once you understand what a serializer does, and feel free to use Django REST framework. Just understand that there's certain things that'll be going on in the background that maybe that you may not be used to.
Are there any kind of negatives to using the framework versus doing it yourself kind of thing, or?
My main concern when using any kind of framework is always kind of becoming too dependent on it. Because if you end up working on a project where they are against using Django REST framework, you got to make sure you know how to do it without it as well. So again, I would say feel free to use it. Just make sure you understand how to do without it as well.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. All right, so let's test this out. So I'm going to manage.py run server. So right now there shouldn't be anything in the server. I'm going to open Postman. There it goes with the spinny. All right, so first I'm going to make a GET request to localhost 3000, 8000 that is, /students. Could not send request. Oh, localhost. All right, so we get an object with a student's key and an empty dictionary. So that's working the way it's supposed to. If I go to /student/1, that student should exist, so I should be getting an error. Yep, I get a title does not exist here. Next, I'm going to try to add a student. So I'm going to make a post request to localhost 8000 /student/new. And I believe the way I want to do that, sorry, one sec, make sure this isn't, so I'm going to go to body, get rid of this stuff from wines. Instead, I want to add first name. I don't have to put it in quotes. Last name. And this will be age.
I think Tom did it yesterday like that, but at the end he ended up doing it in raw.
Well, I'll try it as well. Hit send. All right, yeah, I got another problem as well. If I do preview here, expecting line 1, column 1, char 0. So, yeah, it's interesting. I've managed to do this in the past before. Well, all right, I'll try it in the raw format then. So, first name, is Noah. Last name Heinrich. Age 30. Expecting property name closed in double quotes. Okay. Change all of these to double quotes. One more time. There we go. First name Noah, last name Heinrich, age 30. Then we go to /student/1, make a GET request. There's the student data again. If I wanted to make a post request to /student/1/edit, I could say I want to change Noah's age to 29. Hit send. All right, we have something called full clean missing one positional argument at self. Interesting. So I'm not sure. So something went wrong happened here whenever I tried to make a post request, edit. So let's take a look at edit, see if there's anything that it's obviously wrong here. So I say student equals student.objects.get. If their method is post, we load the JSON data. Form equals student form data, where instance equals this. Oh, I passed in S with the capital S, the student class. That's probably what caused it. All right, try it again. There we go. Age is now 29. And if I wanted to delete this student, hit send, successfully deleted. If I make a GET request to /students one more time, now it's empty again. So what questions do you have about release 1 of this challenge?
Hey Noah, could you go over how we would look somebody up like a student by first name instead of ID, like from the URL section, what would we put in there? And then, you know, instead of ID, like we want to get them just by a first name.
Okay, yeah. So if we wanted to do that, for example, wrong URLs, we could have something called path str. We could do something like search /str first name. And we could go to views.search students. Name equals search students. And then I imagine it looks something like this.
Oh, you missed a closing tag thing on the.
Yes, I did. Thank you. So that would take a request and student name or first name. Is that what I said?
Yes.
Then I would say student equals, like thinking back to when we first used the ORM here. So we could say student.objects.get, where first name equals first name. And then it's the same thing as our student detail after that. So serialize student.
Noah, it looks like you missed an N in student in line 48.
Yes, I did. Thank you. So serialized student. Student serializer with our student detail. Then we return a JSON response where data equals serialized student and status equals 200. So in theory, if I did /student/search/James, so student matching query does not exist. But it does, the route still worked.
Got it. Thank you.
No problem. What other questions y'all have?
Are you gonna push this up, Noah, to the school API?
I will.
repo?
Noah, I had a question. I was curious why all our request methods are post. And the only reason I was curious about that is because I was thinking back to how we were learning the different requests, like we had get, post, put, delete for, you know, updating, grabbing data, or creating new records. But in this process, we've always done post as the method. So I was just curious, like, why is that?
Yeah. So this is something that's kind of new to me, but I've heard that there's kind of a movement going on that essentially says, okay, a post request does the same thing as an edit request or a patch request or a put request or anything like that. It's all just changing data. So why not make everything a post request? So this is a pattern that's kind of gaining in popularity these days. It's not ubiquitous. So some other places may say, okay, you know, if the request.method equals delete, but other places will just say everything that's not a get request is a post request.
Okay, I like it. It sounds good. It's simple. Thank you.
No problem. All right, so let's move on to release 2. So we want to have the ability to CRUD courses. So a course can have many students and a student can take many courses. We have to think about what routes we'll need. We need to set up nested routes to be able to get all the students enrolled in a particular course or see all of a student's current courses. All right, so a course can have many students and a student can have many courses. So we're gonna need to update our models first. I'm gonna kill the server for now. So we're definitely going to need a course model. It's going to take a course name, goes models.charfield, where max length equals 100. I don't think we really need anything else except the str method. How do we associate our student with our courses, though, considering that a student can have many courses and a course can have many students? Will we need another model?
No.
Would it be a many-to-many with the through table? Also?
Yep. We're going to need some kind of join table. So we could call this one enrollment, perhaps. And here it's from models.model. And who remembers how to set up a many-to-many relationship with a through table?
Either the student or a course has to have a many-to-many like foreign key thing that tells it to look through the through table.
So you can say students equals models.
Students equals models dot many-to-many, I think.
Many-to-many field. Let's take a look at that. Take a look at all of this just to be sure. So Django many-to-many. So they have their publication and articles here. Sorry, one sec. I want to make sure I'm getting this. This doesn't look like if we have a many-to-many relationships. So we need a many-to-many field, it says. So many-to-many field dot through, I have an example, it says here. So So they have persons, groups, and memberships. So person has a name, a group has a name, and also members as a models.many-to-many field, person through membership, and then the through fields. And then they have group, person as foreign keys and membership. So I'm going to add student equals models.foreign key, where it's going to be student, and then it's on delete equals models.cascade. Okay. Course equals models.foreign key with course on delete equals models.cascade. And then our course has menus to students models.many-to-many field with student through equals enrollment. And their through fields equal student and course. All right. How does this look? So we have our many-to-many field on course. We have our through table here. I think this should work. So I'm going to make migrations. Uh-oh. All right, we have something here. Enrollment.course is not a foreign key to students. Did you mean one of the following foreign keys to student? So it's not a foreign. Oh, I think I need to swap these around. Let's try that. All right. So it went through. And if I migrate now.
Sorry, no, what'd you swap around? Sorry.
My through fields.
It's got to be course first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it was saying course doesn't point to student. I'm like, well, why would it? Oh, because I put it in that spot. All right, so if I take a look at my migration, I've got my second automatically generated migration here. So make sure everything looks right. So we created a model of courses. We created a model of enrollments. We added a field to students called course so that a student can check their courses. All right, that all looks good to me. So now we need to figure out, all right, our URL situation. So right now, everything points to students. So everything here would point to /students/ all of that. So we might want to change things up a bit since now we have students and courses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my path from students to API. And I'm going to change up these a bit. So I'm going to say /students, students/new, student/student ID, student/student ID/edit, students/that, and students/search. So from now on, when I want to look at my students, instead of localhost 8000/students, I'm going to be looking at localhost 8000/API/students. So now I want to be able to say, all right, I've got courses. We're going to make sure that, we should be able to see all of a course, all of our courses. We need to be able to see a course and all of its students. We need to be able to see all of a student's courses. We need to be able to enroll a student in a course, remove a student from a course, all of that. So the first one, seeing all of our courses, is pretty straightforward. We just say courses. That'll take us to views.course list. Name equals course list. If we want to see it, if we want to see all of a course's students, that could just be part of our view page. So like if we want to see all the details of a course, that would include all of its students. So we could say path courses / int course ID. Take us to views.course detail. Name equals course detail. We want to make a new course. Path courses / int course ID. To views, sorry, /new is what I meant to say. View.new course, views.new course. Name equals new course. And we can have an edit page and a delete page for all of these. That's pretty straightforward. So courses / int course ID /edit views.edit course. Name equals edit course. Courses / int course ID /delete views.delete course. Name equals delete course. So those are all of our standard things. But now we need to figure out, okay, if we wanted to add a new student to our course, that may look a little bit different. That may look something like this. Courses / int course ID /enroll. Or let me think, sorry, I'm thinking about that. So that would take us, so /enroll / and then we would take a student ID. So this is one way of doing it.
You're saying that's to add a student to a course?
Yes.
To like append a student to a course?
Yep. So we can call this one views.enroll student. Name equals enroll student. If you wanted to remove a student from a course, it may look something like path / courses / int course ID / students int student ID / what's the opposite of enroll? Remove?
Drop?
What?
You drop a course?
Yeah, we can call it /drop. Views.drop student. Name equals drop student. All right. All right, so I'm gonna have to change a couple of things here. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to set up go back to my views. I know I'm going to be importing student and course here. I'm going to be importing a course form and a student form and a course serializer. I can set up my course form pretty quickly. course form, forms.model form, class meta, model equals course. Make sure we're importing that. And fields is going to equal course name, and that's it. Serializers, though, is going to have to change a bit because in this particular case, if I want to see all of us, I want to include when I see a student, all of a student's courses, and I want to see a course, I want to see all of a course's students. So that would only go in student detail here. So we have to think about, okay, how do we change our student serializer so that we should be able to get all of a student's courses. So if I'm not mistaken, we could do something like this. We could say courses equals self.body.courses. Because the body is going to be a student object. And then we could say here, courses, and that's going to be courses dot, trying to think of the best way to do that. Sorry, I've got a better idea. So I'm going to say, it's going to create a for loop. So we can say for course in self.body.courses. We need to create an empty array here. So courses equals an empty array. And we'll say courses.append. And we'll have course name is course.coursename. And then down here, we'll say courses is now equal to courses. So we iterate through the courses, get all of the course names. So now our student details should be a lot, not only have a first name, a last name, and age, but also have an array of course objects as well.
And no, where are the courses coming from in this case? Where are they getting passed in from to this function?
Mm-hmm. So thanks to what we changed of our models, so if we pass in a single student object as body, from body we can get to all of the courses using self.body.courses.
Okay.
So self.body just equals a student object.
And you're saying the relationship that we made with the enrollments table, you're grabbing courses on the body.
Yep. So this will allow us to have that many-to-many field set up.
So body is just a query set.
Yeah, body is just, it's not even a query. Yeah, body is just a query set, or in this case, a query of a single student object.
Okay, and you can still call like dot courses on that at this point.
Yep. Because at this point it hasn't been serialized, it's still a query set that you can treat, you can still interact with using the ORM.
I see, okay.
All right. So now I'm going to add my serializer class, course serializer that is. Inherits from object. We're going to have our def init. It's still going to take self and a body. It's going to be pretty much the same as self.body equals body. Pretty much the same as our student serializer. So at property, this one, all courses. We could probably just, copy all of this actually. Just change all of the, well, everywhere it says student to course. course details. And it's just going to be course name. It's course name. Course details here. And then I'm going to make one for def course details. Or just detail, I guess, self. And we're going to do something very similar to what we did here. We're going to have students equal an empty array. We could say for student in self.body.students, we're going to students.append with first name is student.firstname. Last name is student.lastname. And age is student.age. And then we're going to return an object with course name is equal to self.body.coursename. And students is going to equal students. All right, so what questions do you have about these kind of more nested serializers? Okay. So in that case, going back to our views here, we're going to split it so we can look at our views and our URLs together. One sec. Boo, 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 boo. All right. So most of these for course are going to be pretty much the same. You know, new course, course detail, course list, it's all pretty much exactly the same. So I'm going to, do course list. I'm going to do, placeholders for these for now because I want to get to the, more difficult things. So pass, def new course, request, pass, def course detail, takes request and a course ID, pass, def course, what else do we have? We have course list, new course, course ID, edit course, request and course ID, pass, def delete course, request and course ID, pass. Because I want to get to the juicy stuff, which is enrolling a new student and dropping a student. So we know enrolling a student is going to take a course ID and a student ID. So we'll say enroll student, takes a request, course ID, and student ID. I only want to do this if it's a post request. So say if request.method equals post. Then I'm going to have, first I'm going to have to find the course and the student. So course equals course dot objects dot get, where ID equals course ID. Student is going to equal student.objects.get, where ID equals student ID. And so then what I want to do is I want to make sure that I can associate this student with this course and vice versa. Does anyone know how I can do that?
Do you have to call your enrollment table?
I shouldn't have to, because when ideally a join table, if it doesn't have any other information besides those foreign keys, should be automatically made. So let's see if I wanted to say like associate that. Maybe I could just do something like course.students.add our student. It might be that simple. So next I'm going to return, we need to serialize. So we're going to say serialized course equals course serializer with our course. Oh, we need to save, that's the important thing. And I believe that should save for both of them in that case. We'd say course.course detail. Then we return our JSON response, where data equals serialized course. That should be snake case. And status equals 200. All right, what questions do you have about how we did this?
What is the dot add again?
So essentially I'm saying that I want to add this student to this course's students, which also associates this course with that student's courses.
Is dot add just a pre-built?
Yeah, I believe that's a Django method. So I do Django add. It kind of takes us back to where we were. Yeah, so this one says like publications and articles. You just use add, and that associates it with the publications.
Thank you.
All right, and while we're here, let's see if we can look up how to remove something. Remove an association. So it looks like removing a publication from an article, you just use .remove. So for our drop student, so we can say def drop student, request, course ID, student ID. We can pretty much copy most of this and just replace add with remove. And we're still serializing the course and returning it. Right, so I know we've been doing this for an hour, and if I wanted to test this out, I would also need to write all of the methods for the rest of my CRUD functionality for course, and that'll take time that I really would rather spend getting to our next subject and answering questions. So what questions do you have about this? And then we'll take a break.
Would we be able to maybe get a breakout room or something explaining how to do this with the REST framework?
Yeah, we can do that later this afternoon for sure. Okay, in that case, first I'm going to stop the recording.